Welcome everybody joining the call. Hopefully Alex will be on with us soon and then we'll get started. For those who are unfamiliar, the It's Okay To campaign is all about us discussing topics that we don't usually talk about for whatever reason, either discomfort or it just doesn't come up or we shy away from these topics. So we are keen between ourselves at Ladies at Lunch, Empower Development and ISC, we're keen to table these conversations and make sure that we take out some of the edge of having them. I think that's Alex joining us shortly. Hi Alex, how are you?
Hi, I'm well, thank you. How are you? Sorry about that.
No worries at all. So I'm going to introduce myself, then I'll hand over to you ladies to introduce yourself, and then we'll get straight into the topic for today. So welcome everybody. My name is Teniola Tijani. I head up a group called Ladies at Lunch, and we are a group for predominantly Black, Asian and underrepresented women in working in insurance and beyond. And this is right up our street, talking about things that are specific to women. Let me hand over to you ladies to introduce yourselves first before we get going. So Alex, do you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Alexandra Spence. I'm in Canada. I live in Toronto, and I lead ISC Canada, the Aspire program, and I also work for a specialty commercial insurer, Trisura Guarantee, and I'm the VP of distribution.
Amazing. Thank you, Alex. Emma?
Hi, I'm Emma Ackers. I work for Empower Development. I'm a learning specialist here. We do insurance training across the market. We deal with the CII qualifications. We do some technical insurance training. And I come from an insurance broking background before I came into training. So I do have a bit of an insurance background.
Thank you. I always introduce myself as Ladies at Lunch and I forget that I have a job outside of that. So outside of leading Ladies at Lunch, I am an energy underwriter at IQ, for those who are interested. So today the topic is all about talking about our successes, and it's something that women in particular, it could be a generalization, but women in particular are less known for shouting about the things that they are good at. I felt particularly triggered by this conversation because I had been recently nominated for some awards and I wasn't running to put them on my social media, be it LinkedIn or whatever it might be, and I needed a bit of encouragement to do so. So I just thought I'll throw that out there. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that women are a bit more reluctant to talk about their successes? Emma, if you don't mind, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, I think that we always have this worry, don't we, that it's just going to be a bit cringy, or we're going to be like we're bragging about it a little bit. But you know, if we don't shout about our successes, who else is going to do it? So we do have to take that into our own hands sometimes. And Sam, who's the managing director of Empower Development, she recently put a post on LinkedIn, which was talking about her successes. She was on a business trip in New York, and she contacted me before she posted it and said, "Does this sound really braggy? I'm worried about posting this." And I was like, "No, you should post it. It's brilliant. It's so amazing what you've achieved. You should definitely post it." And she was really worried about how it would come across. So I think looking at what you're posting is also a really important aspect, isn't it? So if you're worried about coming across in that way, there are ways that you can formulate what it is that you're posting, so it doesn't come across in that manner. So the post in particular that Sam put absolutely did not come across in that way. Absolutely not. Anyone that read it was just really happy for her. And the post itself got a very high interaction, because people were happy for her, so they were liking it. She came across very grateful for the opportunity, very vulnerable as well. This is where I was, this is where I am now. So don't be afraid to be vulnerable when you're talking about your successes. And she thanked people as well. So that can stop you coming across as quite, braggy. If you're thanking people who helped you get there, it makes it a little bit more sort of discreet I suppose. But I think that is one of many reasons why people worry about it, in case it comes across in
How they
that
come
light.
across. Yeah, that's definitely a big one. I think if I use myself as a personal example, because a lot of the work that I do with LTL is not, the intent is not for a pat on the back, or it's not for, but then on the way there are things that I have achieved, and sometimes I felt discomfort with the fact of celebrating something that was not intended that way. But and that's a more recent thing actually, because before, if I got a speaking opportunity, I'd be really excited about it. I want to tell everybody, and I had to kind of acknowledge where that discomfort comes from. So I think it's definitely a conversation with self to acknowledge where that discomfort is coming from and what leads to that, and then you can address it. And when you know your intent as well, if your intent is not to brag, the likelihood is that you're not going to come across that way. Alex, if you don't mind, I'll throw that to you as well.
Yeah, I think you guys both are ladies, made some great comments. The only thing I'd also add to that is I think it's easier, personally, I'm happy to celebrate someone else's success, but not as easy on myself to allow myself to celebrate my own. So I don't know what that issue is there, but I find that that being something. So, and two, when I think of a success, I'm then already, once that's behind you in your rear view, I'm now thinking about, well, what's next? So maybe if you don't always think about it as a ladder or a staircase, and it just celebrate the stepping stone, and then it's okay to be ready for the next. But there is something to taking a pause, maybe even sharing it with your closer inner circle, and then that will then allow you to get more comfortable with sharing some of that more to a wider audience.
100%.
Yeah, it's
I agree with
interesting.
that. I agree with that, and it's so funny because, oh, sorry, Emma, you go first.
Yeah, I was just going to pick up what someone had put in the comments. Adia's Bakery put in the comments. Maybe they're not confident enough, and I think that links with what you've just been saying about we don't like to talk about ourselves. It's easier if somebody else does it, and I think if you're not feeling confident enough, you can always ask somebody else to do it. There's nothing wrong with that, especially if you're trying to take that first step into being a little bit more confident about talking about your own success. You want to start sharing more online about what you're doing, what you've achieved, what's going on. You can ask other people to do it for you. That you could talk to your internal communications team. These teams are always looking for things to talk about. They always want news stories to shout about, especially when it's about one of their staff doing something amazing. They'd be more than happy to have that land on their desk to circulate. So yeah, if you don't feel confident enough, that's always a route that that you could take.
Definitely. And it's so funny because I have a friend of mine who just finished her law legal practice course, and she is probably my number one cheerleader, and she did not want to say a word about it. I posted about it, she didn't repost it, she just wanted to stay under the radar. So there is something about personality types. It's not necessarily in everybody's nature to want to shout about themselves or talk about the things that they have done that are successes to them. But I think it would be good for us to kind of talk about some of the benefits that come from sharing your successes, because I can definitely say there have been some benefits to maybe posting on things like LinkedIn, posting on things like or telling my senior members of staff about some of the things that I've done that they're not privy to. I can definitely say that there has been benefits to that. I'll give you an example. So I, for a long time, used to see D&I as separate to my day job. Now I don't. I think it's all part and parcel of what we do every day. But I wouldn't really share it with my team. I wouldn't really share some of the conversations that I was having, and then subsequent conversations I'd been invited to off the back of the conversations that I had shared on certain platforms. And when I did share it with my team, it was celebrated. It was something that they were like, why have you kept this to yourself? This is something that we haven't considered in your appraisal. We haven't considered in your midterm. There's so many things that we're doing that if we don't talk about them, how are people supposed to know? How are you supposed to get the credit, both financially within your workplaces, etc., if you don't share it? And you know, I really enjoy talking on platforms like this, on like not LinkedIn, Dive In, for instance.
Oh
And
yeah, remember
yeah,
we were on the panel
we shared a
together? Yeah.
conversation, didn't we, Alex? We did. And that came about because I had shared another conversation I'd done Dive In. So you create more opportunities for yourself when you do share your successes. People start to know what you're good at, what you're good for, and what they should promote you for. And they can signpost you to more opportunities just of you sharing one. So that's definitely a benefit that I have personally enjoyed from sharing my successes. I'll throw it to you both. Is there any benefits that you can say you've had from being a bit more vocal about some of the things that you've achieved? I don't know who wants to go first.
I can go. That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never used to be the one to talk about my successes at all. But I took the route of going to internal communications a number of years ago about something quite big that I was involved in. And they circulated that. And then that ended up on LinkedIn, which then I could share. So it wasn't like I'm talking about myself on LinkedIn. I just shared their post. So it was just sort of inadvertently talking about myself. And I got so many opportunities off of the back of that, because this is how people remember you. What they're seeing on LinkedIn and that activity that they're seeing, the posts that you make, the things that you share in, that is how they remember you. And when opportunities come up, they will think of you and go, oh, I saw Emma post something about this. I wonder if she'd be interested in doing something with this. That's how I got this job, was through posting things and sharing things on LinkedIn. And maybe if I didn't post about the things that I was passionate about, or the successes that I'd had in the past, my boss might not have seen, you know, what I was capable of. So I think it's all about how people remember you. Yeah,
Definitely. Alex, what about you?
And I was sharing before we jumped on this, I don't even have Instagram anymore, so I'm not exactly the most on social media to be sharing. I have a LinkedIn account that I try to update sometimes. So I would say my approach is a bit more quiet, but I think it's strategic in a similar way. So I would say the way I sort of go about sharing my successes through networking. And so that by that, I mean, I meet someone at an event and I'll happily follow up with them and ask them if they want to go for coffee. That's a one-on-one opportunity to learn more about them, maybe more about their role, hear about their career, build a relationship. And then it also gives me a great opportunity to share about what my career experience has been, what I'm thinking about for the future, and where there might be some opportunities to connect, do some business together. So that's how I think about how you can use your network to build that brand awareness, but more on a smaller one-to-one. Yeah. So I would say that's definitely how I would share my successes, but I never would think about it that was what I was doing, but I would inadvertently be doing that.
I love that you said that, Alex, because there's not just one way, and it's giving, and I want us to as well think about, I'll probably get onto that in a moment, I'm going to go to the comments in a second, but I think it's getting people comfortable with the fact that you don't have to do it the way that you see everybody do it in a way that makes you feel comfortable, but to the same effect. So if you're trying to reach seniors, or if you're trying to socialize some of your successes amongst senior members of staff, you might not want to send a broadcast, but you might just, you know, see them walking around and say, oh, I have a positive piece of news to share with you. They'd love that. And it doesn't have to be the loudest expression. It doesn't have to be in your own words. It could be, you know, socializing it one by one, person by person, so that you get comfortable with telling your own story as well. And I can see the comment in the comment section that talks about, you know, being encouraged to share positive feedback about yourself. And it starts off cringy at first, but then you get comfortable with it over time. And that's a very, very, very important note about practice.
Yeah.
You don't just wake up one day feeling successful. You have to get comfortable with the nature of your success. And the more you talk about it, the more you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I did do that. That was me, you know? And so I love that point about practice. And thank you everyone for including your comments in the chat. I'm sure a lot of people are getting things out of it. So now that we've kind of shared one tip, is there any other tips that come to mind, or are there any other tips that come to mind about how you can share your successes if you're more introverted, or just different tips and different tools that you found have worked well for you? While you both think, I've got one that just came to mind. So
Sure.
I often forget about some of the successes I've had across the year, and it can sometimes be a long process trying to think about, oh, what did I do in April? What did I do in March? So I keep a track across the year of things that I have done. And then when it comes time to have those important conversations like midterm appraisal or end of year appraisal, I've got it in a list, and I can share that list with my manager ahead of time. And that just holds me to account because it's all facts. I'm not making it up. I'm not adding any extra bells and whistles to it to make it sound good. It's just very factual things. But it's making a note of, if it felt like a success in that moment, I just note it down. So that, because sometimes the moment's gone, you think, oh, I wish I shared that. I wish I spoke about that. And then it's too far after the fact. So keep a track of some of the things that you've done, because it's even good to look back on and think, wow, I did that. That happened to me this year, or that's something I achieved this year. Who wants to share some tips that came to mind? Alex, I think you had one on the tip of your tongue.
Well, I call that, what you said, Tenny, a brag bag. Right? So have a few items in there at all times, just that you can pull out and share in terms of what your experience might be, what you've done lately, and what you're working on. I think is helpful to have, to your point, at the tip of your tongue. And then two, I think we all assume that our boss or sort of our peers of course they know what we're up to. And so I just try to operate under the assumption that people don't know. And so it's okay to at least mention in passing. And then the only other thing I'll comment with that I think goes hand in hand is the idea that if you don't ask, you won't get. So if there is a project that you did want to be tied to, or a stretch assignment that you did want to be a part of, or a committee, if you don't ask or let people know that you're interested in that project or that opportunity, you can't assume that they're just going to know, because no one can get into your head. So I find you have to be very vocal about where you want to go, or what you want to be working on, or the experience that you're hoping to gain.
I love that one. How about you, Emma?
I think we spoke a moment ago about it can be really tricky to accept the fact that you've been successful, because that could also be a bit of a cringy prospect, can't it? You're like, oh, I can't think that about myself, but you absolutely can. And I think once that's one hurdle, isn't it, to get over, is the recognizing that you have been successful. The brag bag, I love that, I'm going to use that. Making a note of all of those things, and we've all had that voice in our head. I know that I have anyway, that this thing that I'm thinking I want to share, it's not important enough, and it's not very interesting. We always have, that thought in our head, that voice. It's not important enough, and it's not interesting enough. But we have to try and sort of shun that a little bit, I think. Because if we don't, like I said before, if we don't shout about these things, who is going to do it? We have to do that for ourselves and for each other as well. I think that's really important, how we lift each other up and support each other in sharing our successes. So if you see somebody that you know that's done something really great, share it. They'll remember that, and they'll do the same for you next time. And when we're sharing our successes, if you want to try and formulate a way to do that, which makes you feel a little bit more comfortable, give the credit to whoever has helped you get to that position. Use humour in your posts as well. It makes it feel a lot safer. A lot of a safer post to share if there's a bit of humour in there. It's not all I'm amazing. But yeah, I really encourage working with each other and supporting.
Yeah. I can see Sam has put, I love that, supporting each other. And that is so important as well. There's a feel-good factor when you put something up and people engage and people are happy for you. A lot of the times, the things that we diminish and the things that we think aren't important, like I'll take myself as an example. I remember the year that I had won an award for Young Insurance Woman of the Year. I wasn't necessarily in a great place, so I didn't really want to talk about it. But everyone around me was so happy. And first of all, my family were ecstatic.
Wow.
And then it just kind of snowballed from there. And that helped me kind of come to terms with the fact that this is a big achievement. So if you see an achievement around, give that person their flowers, you know, whilst they can hear it. It's free also to support. I don't know why people don't do it, but you don't know how that would be encouraging to somebody who was probably reading that draft a million times and didn't want to post it. Just seeing your comments or your support or your, you know, your encouragement in on their post or whatever it might be, or even if it's in person, it goes a long way. And to that point as well, you never know who's watching you. I have a collective, and I think that's what keeps me honest, is that I constantly feel like I'm leading by example. And so if I'm telling my collective to share their successes, and I'm telling them, this is a great thing, you deserve it, and then to myself, I can't owe myself the same, then there's a disconnect there. So I'm grateful for them. I'm grateful for LTL because they definitely keep me honest. And I lean on my collective as well. I lean on my network as well. If something doesn't feel right, similar to your point, Emma, if something doesn't feel right, and how Sam kind of reached out to you to give it a read, that's what your network is there for. How does this come across? How does this feel? I've drafted many a LinkedIn post for my collective because I need them to get comfortable with sharing their successes. So ask for help. You know, you don't have to go at it alone. Same way I would draft an email and you would come to me straight away to help you draft an email about something else that's not positive. Lean on your network in the same way. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, Emma, I'll come to you really quickly because I know that Empower Development has a Women with Presence course. I know it's a course that you pay for, Sam, don't tell me off, but is there any tips that come out of your Women with Presence course that you could probably bring to the table in particular?
It really just echoes quite a bit of what we've spoke about today, which is about lifting each other up and empowering each other and working together, supporting each other. Very big on that. And about if we're not going to do it, who else is going to do that for you? So taking that initiative, taking that plunge. We work with a lot of people who maybe don't even have LinkedIn and getting them from the point of not having LinkedIn to making a LinkedIn post. Quite a big step. It's so nerve-wracking, isn't it? Doing that first post. But like you said, use that network that you've got around you. And once you've done it at one time, it was so much easier the next time, and then the next time, and then the next time. It's just getting over that first hurdle, isn't it? So you've got to take the plunge.
I agree. Emma, I'll come to you as well. Because I think there might be a bit of... sorry, I said Emma. Alex, I'll come to you because I think there might be a cultural thing there where it's very British to like keep things to yourself and not say much, but I don't think that's the same stateside. Would you agree with that from your experience?
Yeah, there definitely could be a difference there. I think what's interesting too is if you are already hesitant to share about yourself, sometimes LinkedIn can feel like just a playground for people to talk about their successes, and that can also become disenchanting. Not that I'm by any means discouraging people from using that platform. I think it's offers tremendous benefit, but I do find sometimes you can look through and be like, holy, I guess all of my friends are running the world right now, right? In terms of what's shared. So I think sometimes cutting through that too, and not always comparing yourself, right? That's not how you're going to be able to ever feel like you're successful if you're always comparing yourself to peers. I think it's figuring out, how do you want to define and what does success mean to you? And within that topic, I think what's interesting is, as I'm 38 now, and I find as you kind of continue on with your career, I'm not suggesting I'm anywhere close to near the end of my career. I feel like I'm just getting started. But I do think, I do think how you think about and how you define success changes. And it's a continuous evolution. And I think that that's what's exciting about the idea of success and how you want to define it for yourself. And I think we also want to consider, what does success look like for us within our career, but within ourselves as people, and sort of what elements of your career does the success piece hinge on, and then what other parts of your life do you also want to make sure you make room for there to the opportunity to be successful, right?
I love that,
It's sort of wholesome.
I love that. And I love that because that really speaks to me, because one of my most recent posts was, I put it on LinkedIn because I was proud of the conversation, not because I was proud of the fact that I got a speaking opportunity. I was proud of what I said. I was proud of the fact that, you know, I was speaking about something so freely that I would have probably found discomfort speaking about before. So the topic was about white allyship. And
Yes.
before it would have been a conversation, I would have thought, can I, should I, how will this impact me? I work in a white majority space, you know, but I was just proud of the fact that we could have that conversation, and that was success to me. So you've just unlocked something in me about, you know, success changes over time, and that's okay. It's kind of you, if you look at it, you versus you, what do you define success as? Because if that moment came to you as a success, then you should share it, and it might be the smallest thing, but it's a success to you, and that's okay. And I think as well, that also triggered a point in me about your intent. If your intent is just the fact that, I definitely stand by the fact that don't leave it to your managers to know everything that you're doing and share it with all the people that need to hear it. You know, that's on you, and you own a lot of your own success. But if your intent is just to spread the word about something that you're really proud of, there's nothing wrong with that. And that's a very matter-of-fact thing. You're proud of the fact that you did that. It doesn't have to be very pleased to have blah, 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 and it's not something that you're truly proud about. It's just something that you think is the right thing to do, because that won't come across as genuine. But when it's something that is a proud moment for you, it's very matter-of-fact. You should go for it, and you should share that in a way that feels comfortable. I'm conscious that these conversations are meant to be only half an hour, and that's gone so quickly, and we could probably go on for a bit longer, but I just wanted to go to you both for final thoughts. If you had to leave this call with one final thought that you wanted somebody on the call to get comfort from, or somebody to, you know, leave thinking about it over their bank holiday weekend, we hope you don't forget it after the festivities, but what would you want that to be? It's bank holiday in the UK for us. I don't think it's the same in Canada.
Okay. No.
But what would you want your final thought to be? Emma, if you don't mind, I'll come to you first.
I really like what we just talked about, actually, about that, about your career and, you know, how we define that, and that changes over time. I love that. I just wanted to tell you. And really, for me, it's just about don't be afraid to talk about your success. Don't be afraid to ask other people to do it, and just take a chance to do it. And don't let the little voice in your head take over too much, and keep your brag bag.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I love that. Don't let the voice in your head win.
Make sure you're lifting your friends and your colleagues up, and it'll come twofold to you.
I love that. I love that. Don't let the little voice in your head win. Keep your brag bag full. Keep noting things down, and lift up others as well. I can see some comments that I'm going to share before I come to you, Alex. If you're comparing to anyone compared to the past version of yourself, I love that. How can you shape the environment how can we shape the environment if we hold back from sharing? And that's so true. We lead by examples. Our lives are examples. So we have to keep putting the best of ourselves forward, because that shapes other people's behavior, other people's mindsets, and lets people know we're at that table, you know, we're to be considered, we're to be heard, etc. So I love that comment. Your vest looks different each day, so to acknowledge that is powerful. Or your best, sorry. Your best looks different each day, so to acknowledge that is powerful. Thank you so much, by the way, for your comments, everybody. They've been really helpful, and it's great to see the engagement in the chat. So I'm going to come to you, Alex, for your final words.
Yeah, I think I don't know if I'm the model, but I'm working every day on it in terms of getting more comfortable speaking about success and or acknowledging it. This is my mom thinks I'm really successful, and when she says that, I get cringe. Like I find it cringeworthy. I'm like, what are you talking about? But I do think that sometimes you need to take a step back and think about what maybe you have done, similar to our conversation earlier. And I just encourage people to think about how it is. Your career is a journey. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And so different parts of your career, the successes might not be as big, but maybe they're little wins that are going to get you to a bigger success later on down the road. And just to think of it as a continuing evolution and journey, and to not, as hard as it is, to not compare yourself to others, because that's not going to get you anywhere.
I love that. I love that. I literally want to keep going. And even if there was no one in this room, I have taken so much from this conversation. And I love that. It is a journey. And it's so funny because in the lead up to this conversation was when I got the nomination more recently. And I was shying away from talking about it. And then somebody pulled me up and said, aren't you talking about successes like next week? And I was like, ah. So literally, I also don't know that I'm the model. And I think that's great for us to give each other comfort that there's no perfect way. You might see someone on LinkedIn that you think they've got it all together. They're still figuring it out as well. But in that, you know, the little wins, even in the little things, give yourself a pat on the back. At first, you have to believe it's a success. Because once you believe it's a success, then you'll feel comfortable sharing that much wider. And so believe in yourself that it's a success. Celebrate yourself. Take yourself out to lunch. I'm a big advocate for that, which is evident in my round face. But take yourself out for lunch and, you know, treat yourself. Enjoy all the good moments, because we spend so long in some of the not so good moments that we should spend even more time in the good stuff. There's good in every day, I always say. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I hope you have too. Many thanks to Empower Development, to ISC, and to all those from LTL who've joined the conversation. These conversations are just to feel like a big hug, to let you know that these conversations are important and you're not alone in any of the things that you're going through. And we'll be back next month with another conversation that will be on a different topic. But I just wanted to say a big thank you for sharing, ladies, and thank you for all the people who joined and engaged in the chat. And we will be back next month. So have a good weekend and see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.